This is Adam Smith, philosopher, author, and most commonly referred to as the father of economics. He set out to redefine how wealth was created, and his writings laid the foundations for economic rules that businesses, institutions, and nations still follow till today. But here's the thing. Smith, along with thinkers like David Ricardo and John Stuart Mill, was part of the classical school of economics, a school of thought that largely believes that people are rational decision makers, that people make choices that lead to the optimal level of benefit for themselves. Fast forward, and something quite cool emerged. This field recognizes that humans are not always rational. There are social, emotional, and psychological factors that are always at play, influencing our economic decision making. Economist Richard Taylor, however you want to pronounce it, famously pointed out that if humans were rational beings, they'd all invest their money into the stock market. But in reality, many choose instant gratification, splurging on shoes, cars, or luxury items instead, as there are other social, emotional, and psychological forces at play. Interestingly, Adam Smith, the father of economics, actually did touch on this in his early writings. He acknowledged that human behavior isn't purely logical, but for centuries, economists largely ignored this because human psychology is unpredictable and it's harder to model. And it was in this time, during the wake of behavioral economics, where the nudge theory was born. The nudge theory has a long history, but it really rose to prominence in 2008 after Richard Taylor and Cass Sunstein published the book Nudge. The nudge theory is about making small and sneaky tweaks to one's environment so that they make better decisions without even realizing it. It's not about banning sweet treats. It's about strategically positioning the fruit in a place where you see them first. It's so effective that the White House and Downing Street have used this theory too. In 2010, David Cameron's government created the Behavioral Insights Team, most commonly known as the Nudge Unit. To reduce household energy consumption, they found that they could simply tell people how much the average household was spending on energy, and that would be enough for people to cut back. Essentially, any spending that was above this benchmark could be seen as excess or as financial loss for the consumer. And plus, who wants to spend more than their neighbor? So it was found that it might not be necessary for a government to have to come in and enforce these big authoritarian rules for people to cut down on their energy consumption. They could easily nudge people to reduce their spending by just informing them of how much the average person in their area is spending on energy. In Washington, Obama's administration established its own nudge unit and hired nudge theory expert that we mentioned before, Cass Sunstein, to work in the government as well. Obama's administration applied the nudge theory to retirement savings. They argued that employees were more likely to continue saving if they were automatically opted into a savings program, as opposed to if they were advised to do it and then had to go through the admin of enrolling themselves. The result? The nudge worked for federal employees. Traditionally, conservatives and Republicans are very much pro-laissez-faire. This is just a fancy French term to mean let it be. This is all about preferring a small state, so less government intervention and more freedom. But here's the dilemma. If the state should not interfere in the economy or people's lives, should they just let people make bad decisions? Or should they step in and help out? Here's where it gets interesting. Taylor, I just can't get his name right, and Sunstein believe that they found a middle ground, because the nudge theory is not about forcing people to make certain decisions, and it's also not about leaving them to fail, but it subtly guides better decision making, because the nudge theory does not force people with strict rules and policies, and neither does it let people just go off to fail. It helps to guide decision making in a very subtle way. You can just tell people that their neighbors are paying less, and then you'll probably see some energy consumption go down, as opposed to setting these really strict energy consumption limits and regulations. And this perfectly highlights that there are so many social, emotional, psychological factors at play that make people make certain decisions. If I know that everyone on my street is paying £400 less than I am in bills, I'm gonna want to change that. They call it libertarian paternalism. It's helping people make better choices while still allowing them to keep their freedom. So yeah, technically it's still interfering, but in a very subtle and free will kind of way, where they're not forcing you, but they definitely are encouraging you. With some pretty successful outcomes in the public policy realm, I wondered whether I could use this theory in my life as well. So here's what I tried. Number 1, redesign my environment. Have you ever walked into Lidl and just been hit by the smell of fresh croissants? Yeah, that's no accident. They nudge you to smell and crave their bakery items by strategically placing them right at the front of the shop, where you have to enter through. You smell them, you crave them, and you're already walking in that direction, so you're probably gonna walk straight into getting one, even though it wasn't on your shopping list. I wanted to read more, so I put my book right at eye level in my room, so that when I walk through my door, the first thing I see is my book. The second thing I did is I played around with friction and resistance. This is all about making unuseful habits harder to achieve and making more productive habits a lot easier to achieve. So to make an end on mindless scrolling, I made it harder to achieve that habit. I turned off notifications for social media, I used focus mode on my iPhone, and sometimes I just switch off the whole phone and place it somewhere else so that I just cannot see it. And when it comes to making productive habits a bit easier, I lay out my gym clothes the night before. Future me has already decided. I wake up, I get dressed, and I go on my run. And lastly, incorporating what I've called, I don't even know if it's a real thing, social nudges. Now, I love accountability partners, but this works quite differently. No one is calling me or checking on me to see whether I have completed X task by X or Y date. It's a bit different. It's about being in a social position where I'm gently nudged to create better decisions. It's just about being in an environment where success is expected. For example, joining a book club, a French class, or a debate team. No one's breathing down your neck or checking if you've done what you said you'd do. But if you fall behind, it'll be very noticeable. If you show up to class without your French homework done, or show up to book club without having read that book, or debate team without refining your skills, it'll be very noticeable in a social setting. And that subtle pressure, I guess, would nudge me into completing the French homework, into making these better decisions. From governments trying to use the nudge theory to help shape public policy, to me using it just in my everyday life to make small improvements daily, I think the nudge theory is quite good. And the best part is that it's subtle, but it is very effective. By redesigning my environment, tweaking friction and resistance, and using social nudges, I really believe I can make better decisions and better choices without setting very strict and scary rules for myself. So I guess the next time that we want to build a habit or break one, I guess we can ask ourselves, how can I nudge myself in the right direction? Because we've seen making a very small change to an environment can create a huge change in our behavior. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it has blessed you in the way it needed to. But yeah, come back if you're interested in seeing how we can use economic theories to actually change our day-to-day lives. It's not just for the economy. Thanks guys, bye.